Hello, my name is C.Conger. I'm going to be talking to you about dimensions of cultural difference, multicultural and global leader dilemmas, and then developing knowledge, skills, and awareness for those. Chin and Trimble have listed several of the dimensions of cultural difference in their book, and they're typically going to be used for training and self-awareness and the skills associated with each dimension, so the reader can go back and analyze them over and over again to make sure that they have them. Today, though, I'm going to talk about power distance, individualism versus collectivism, and the neutral versus effective dimensions, as those are the most common that I come across in my professional career. So in the power distance, we will see high power. Those are going to be dimensions that are respectful based on like seniority and age, education level. They show respect and obedience toward their superiors. That's going to be more like in the Eastern cultures, you'll find that. The low power distance represents individualism that we'll get into here in a minute. As those type of cultures like to think that the individual is important, they have a voice to be heard, so in times of decision making or conflict, they will often speak up to their superiors to give them their piece of the pie, essentially. In individualism versus collectivism, the individualism is basically a self-centered attitude. The things that this person wants to do to accomplish their own personal agenda, and that is revolved around their decision-making abilities. They make the decisions for themselves, whereas in the collectivism, they're more group-centered. They rely on the group. They take the group's advice for decisions. You can see that in like Native American cultures, common, or in Asian cultures of the like. And then we have neutral versus effective, and this is kind of scattered around the Western and Eastern cultures, but most importantly, the neutral dimension is the type of person that's going to hide their emotion but keep a professional look about them. This is obviously not very good for most people, whereas the effective dimension is going to show a lot of emotion. Like in Latin cultures, they might be a little physical with you or be in your personal space in order to help, get their point across in that dimension. All right, for the multicultural and global leader dilemmas, again, Chin and Trimble have listed several in their book, but I'm going to talk about self-awareness, image management, negotiation, and communication. Because, again, these are things that I do to try to become a better leader for myself. The self-awareness specifically looks at who are you, how am I doing this job, what am I doing here. The leader needs to decide what situations and contexts that they are going to adapt to or conform to in order to fit the right situation. Again, this is what I typically do when I'm in a professional conversation or I'm trying to lead by an example, as I'm just checking myself, gauging myself, seeing if if I'm level-headed, if I'm making the right decision that I would typically make without being in a flustered attitude, or if I am flustered, how can I get myself back down to a level 2 and keep it going on a professional note. Moving to image management, the book mentions how superficial this can be, and I would agree, but it is something that is important, especially when you're trying to project your leadership onto different diverse cultures. And it maybe not just be the way you look, but how you present yourself, your charisma. If somebody comes into the room and they're a little overly charismatic, well, that might set off, certain cultures to think this person might not be as trustworthy as they're leading on to be. Which, that part of that can also read into the negotiation dilemma. And obviously, negotiations between different cultures is highly crucial, especially in a global setting. Where one desire of, let's say, a Western culture is probably not going to be the same desire as an Eastern culture in the initial agreement. So a negotiation to figure out, well, hey, I will give you that value if you give me something that I think is of equal value. And understanding different cultures can play a heavy hand in being successful at negotiating. And that also leads into communication. Without having communication between diverse groups, team members, anybody that's in the organization, there's likelihood for a failure to happen within the organization or whatever project that is needing the diverse team in the first place. So being able to communicate across all cultures is highly important to be effective. And then finally, this leads into how these will help develop knowledge, skills, and awareness to make you and your team that much better, that much more ethnically and culturally inclined. And you'll see how the dimensions of cultural difference and the multicultural and global leader dilemmas play a part, or, by their information, they are the knowledge, skills, and awareness that you can use to develop tools and skills to be able to practice this in your own professional atmosphere. In the knowledge area, we have, it's important to understand as much as possible about yourself, your leadership styles, and then also the individuals that you're working with, their background, their culture, their heritage. By understanding both of these different dynamics, it can help you learn how to adapt your style so that you're a more effective leader in that context. The skills that you pick up from this, by learning these dimensions of cultural difference and the multicultural and global leader dilemmas, can help build the skills for cross-cultural communication, which will also lead to building the skills that you will need to make strategic decisions across global settings. With communication being another one, negotiations, anything that's going to take a bit of personality to reach through to someone, whether it's on the phone, email, or in a video call. And then finally, your awareness, being aware of the differences in the individuals and yourself. This shows competence in your leadership abilities, and it also builds respect across the entire team. And with that, that's all I have for tonight. So thank you for your time, and hope you had happy holidays.